everybody, welcome back to Let's Talk. My name is John, and today here on the channel, we're going to be talking about 2024's Heretic and its brand new A24 4K Blu-ray that just came out. But before we get into that 4K Blu-ray review, guys, you know how I work. I always like to give a quick film review, and today is no different. So if you don't want to have anything for the film Heretic spoiled for you, I recommend skipping ahead to that 4K Blu-ray review right now. And Heretic was written and directed by Scott Beck and Brian Woods, and this isn't the first film these two have worked together on. The last film they did was the film 65 that came out in 2023, I believe, starring Adam Driver, and that movie was absolutely horrible. And then when I heard about this movie and I saw the trailer for it, because they played this trailer in theaters a lot, and I try and avoid trailers, but it had Hugh Grant in it. That's what really sold me on the movie, and I think that's what sold a lot of people on the movie, and I'm pretty sure the marketing for the movie was sold on this being a Hugh Grant film. Hugh Grant was one of the biggest heartthrobs in the 1990s. You know, a very good-looking guy, was loved on the talk shows. The arrest for having a prostitute with him was a huge deal in the 1990s. You know, he always gave these very charming interviews, and lately he's been kind of doing these very weird roles. This is the second role I've seen in a few years where he even puts glasses on just to cover up those eyes so you don't get drawn to how good-looking of a man he is.
Quite like it when you talk dirty to me. I can feel myself engorging.
He did something very similar in the movie The Gentleman, where you don't even realize that's Hugh Grant. Now, in this movie, you do realize it's Hugh Grant, but he fades away into the Mr. Reed character so freaking fast that you forget that's Hugh Grant. You just think that this is this scary Mr. Reed guy. And he's not the only one starring in this movie. It's only a three-handed movie, not just Hugh Grant, but we also get Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East as two Mormon missionaries. It's funny, the first time we see them, they're actually talking about the Book of Mormon. They don't say it, they just say that play by the South Park guys. And the one girl says, yeah, you know, those jokes are pretty funny. Like, try to show that these people, despite being like, you know, what a lot of people would think of like Mormon missionaries as being like people just knocking on doors, trying to come inside. They're trying to humanize all these characters right out of the gate. And they have a mission that day, and that mission is to go to Mr. Reed's house. Now, it's like a rainy day. It's going to turn to snow. And this movie captures that perfectly. It looks beautiful. And I believe, you know, of course, it's the Mormons, so they're in Utah. Just an absolutely beautiful looking state until we end up inside Mr. Reed's house. And we get our first interaction. And this interaction, it's awesome. Like, you get to see Hugh Grant be Mr. Reed. He's so charming, just playing into what you think Hugh Grant would be. And because these girls are so trusting, they're Mormons, they're like, okay, we would like to come inside, but is there a female present so we can come inside because that's our rules? And he's like, well, my wife's here. Does that count? Like, you know, just being super charming. And they're like, yeah, that would work. And he's like, oh, well, she just made some blueberry pie. Why don't you come on in? You know, blueberry pie, it smells great. And, you know, they're sitting down, talking a little bit, just kind of getting to know each other before things really make a dark and twisted turn. And this movie becomes all about religion. And the religious aspect of this movie works much better for me than the actual horror thriller aspects. The horror thriller aspects are very, you know, I would say generic, something you've seen before. Now, the religious aspect, there's been plenty of movies that have tried to break down religion, the meaning of all these different religions. Well, Mr. Reed happened to be somebody who studied all of these different kinds of religions and is an expert on pretty much all of them, including the religion that they're there to sell him, which is the Mormon religion. So essentially, he's there kind of to prove a point to these young girls and try and make them understand his perspective on religion. And they don't realize who they're involved in and what Hugh Grant is there to do. You know, they're actually very trusting, even early on as things start to get really weird. When they realize that that candle is blueberry pie scented candle, they should have been out that door right away. But they're such trusting people. This guy is so friendly. They're willing to follow along with him. But at some point, you know, you got to try and get out of there. But they realize the front door's locked, and this guy, he's going to get his message across, which is basically breaking down all these religions, break it down in a simplified way for not only the two people that are there in the house with him, but also for us, the audience. That's kind of the big selling point when the two writers were making this movie, and the two directors, is that they wanted to like break it down into like a bunch of simplified allegories. There's a great one in here comparing religion to certain fast foods, like which one is the best, which one is the right one, which one is the true religion. It breaks it down with Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. I love that aspect. All those aspects of breaking down what all the different religions are, what is the absolute correct religion, all that aspect. As somebody like myself, I don't really talk about my religion here on the channel, but I actually happen to be somebody who's agnostic, so I don't actually believe in any organized religion personally, but I leave that door cracked open, so it's very interesting to hear a guy like Mr. Reed's perspective on religion and what he thinks of all these religions. And, you know, of course, the movie's banking on you being a religious person, whether it be a Christian, a Mormon, and you following along. And then, of course, it's all building up to the third act of this movie, which a lot of people weren't in love with the third act, and I can understand that because this is where it's all revealed to us. Like, was it all one big ploy, or is Mr. Reed going to show us the one true religion like he keeps promising? And I understand why people would be very disappointed with the end of this movie, because it's like pulling the carpet out from under you and just revealing all of the tricks, and then, of course, revealing what he truly does believe. And I can understand why that would be disappointing to people. I kind of like the conclusion that he comes to and the message he's trying to show. I just don't like that they do a full exposition dump at the very end of the movie to show us everything that we saw going on might not be everything that we perceive to be going on. And that's a little bit disappointing. I understand why they did that, because, again, it's an allegory for religion in general, so it does make sense in the context of the film. I just don't think we needed a big exposition dump right there at the very end of the movie. I just felt like a little bit too much, in my opinion. And again, like all the horror aspects, it didn't really feel like anything new to me. But what did feel really special is that Hugh Grant performance. That's the selling point of this movie. He really deserves the acting nominations that he's been getting. He didn't get an Academy Award nomination, but he did get like a BAFTA and a SAG nomination for his performance, because he is just fucking phenomenal in this movie. Like, he blends, like, you forget that's Hugh Grant, and the movie is banking on you knowing that's Hugh Grant, the heartthrob of the 90s. So it's incredible that he falls into this role. Like, this is a guy, a weird old guy. He's just talking to you all friendly, but there's something really sinister behind those glasses, and the movie just sells that to you perfectly. The two other actors do a good job, but they're really just compliments to him. Like, they're just fine, where he's just fucking phenomenal. And it's incredible how good of a job he does in the lead role of this movie. And again, the whole film in general looks great. I love how beautifully shot this movie is. The interiors of Mr. Reed's house with the warm yellow lighting. I think it's a great juxtaposition with the cold, white look of outside. That's one thing I love about winter in general, because my house is kind of lit like that. It doesn't have the same like weird wallpaper or anything like that, but like I like warm yellow lighting, and when it gets snowy outside, I love that. And I think the movie actually captured that aspect of atmosphere perfectly. So for the most part, it's a great film. It's not the best horror film in my opinion of 2024. I felt like it was a good one. You can watch it. It's something that I might put into the every year winter rotation, because it does feel like the kind of movie you watch on a snow day, but you're really there for that great Hugh Grant performance. So if I could recommend the film for anything, it's to see Hugh Grant play Mr. Reed. But let's talk about this new A24 4K Blu-ray that just came out. Here it is, Heretic on 4K Blu-ray, courtesy of A24. Everybody in Region B and Region C won't be getting this same 4K Blu-ray, but there will be a United Kingdom 4K Blu-ray release that we talked about in the Let's Talk Physical Media show, so for everybody else, you'll be able to get that as well. This is actually my fourth, and I bought another one with this. I haven't even opened yet, but I'm going to review it here on the channel next week. I saw the TV Glow showing up, and then The Lighthouse on Blu-ray. So Heretic is actually the fourth film I've bought from A24, and this is on 4K Blu-ray with Dolby Atmos on it, HDR10, and Dolby Vision. I'm not the world's biggest fan of what they do with their packaging. I appreciate like the digibook packaging, and they put a lot of effort into it. Like when you come inside, some great artwork. Like all this stuff looks good. In here you get some cards, which are pretty cool as well. And this is my favorite of them all. Like, look at that. Look how beautiful that is. Taco Bell, man. Taco Bell is delicious. So it's nice that we have all those nice little lobby cards in there. You come inside again, just really leaning into the colors of the movies, the oranges, the browns, like what the inside of Mr. Reed's house looks like. I love all of that. It's a one-disc set, so everything is going to be on your 4K Blu-ray disc. And that's where our first flaw starts. Is when you get on that 4K Blu-ray disc, it's a one disc. I believe it's a 66 gigabyte disc, and there's only two extras on there. One of them is a commentary track, and the other one is a 15-minute like making of documentary, which is fine. You get a lot of information on there. I appreciated having that tool available to me for this review, but I mean, that's it. We don't get any other interviews. It's the biggest flaw of buying like any new release, even whether it be from A24 or a major studio, is because the movie just came out pretty recently, they don't stack these discs with the extras. But the problem is they're charging a premium price. Like this was a $35 4K Blu-ray. And yes, you get some great packaging in there. And of course, we're going to talk about that transfer. But to have a limited amount of extras and charging boutique level prices, which, A24 at this point, I guess, is a boutique level distributor as far as physical media goes. They're pretty big in the movie theater world as far as being one of the great distributors. Like a couple of their films got nominated for Best Picture. That's how big A24 is nowadays. They also have the program where if you buy this on their website and you use their AAA24 program, where you'll get 10% off of all of their physical releases, and you also get tickets to all their movies. It's a pretty good deal if you're a big fan of A24. And I'll admit, since I saw the TV Glow and Heretic from them, I was like, should I sign up for that? Because I do see all their movies in theaters. Might seem like a pretty good deal, but I have the AMC Stubs A-list, so I was like, you know what? I'll just grab these movies right now and we'll check them out. But $35 and 2 extras is a really tough pill to swallow, so that kind of bothered me, so I wasn't too happy about the extras. But when you pop that disc in and you have that HDR10 and Dolby Vision and that Dolby Atmos track, you know what? It kind of makes it all seem worthwhile, because the Dolby Atmos track for a very atmospheric film like this was very, very impressive. I've always felt like Dolby Atmos tracks lend themselves better to the horror genre just because, we're trying to create atmosphere, so we like to have sounds coming from different channels. There were points where I was surprised that this was actually on the disc and not in my kitchen in the other room, so that's a sign of a really impressive Dolby Atmos track. So the Dolby Atmos track, very, very, very good. Definitely worth it for that. And then the visuals very much impressed me as well. The Dolby Vision HDR10 were definitely doing their work. If you compare them, they weren't that much different. The only biggest difference I noticed actually was pretty funny, as you guys see the Xbox Series X always behind me. So I always like to test the discs on there, because a lot of people watch their films on the PlayStation 5, the Series X. A lot of people, myself included, came to physical media collecting because of, like, in 2000 when the PlayStation 2 came out. That had a DVD player attached to it. That was my first DVD player, my first DVD player for years. It really wasn't until I got into 4K Blu-ray collecting that I didn't use my video game consoles as my main way of watching movies. I mean, it was built right in. But I did notice with this 4K Blu-ray, given the Xbox Series X doesn't have Dolby Vision, so you're only going to be getting regular HDR10 on there, I noticed a big difference between watching it on my Xbox and watching it with Dolby Vision on my Panasonic 820 player. So I wanted to make note of that, because of the Series X, it just looked a little bit flatter. It didn't feel like the HDR was doing as good of a job as the Panasonic 820 was. That stuff, I mean, like the highlight around the warm yellow lights, when they're outside early in the movie and it's, still raining, it's not snowing yet, the amount of detail that you can see, like, you felt like I was looking at a painting at points, and it was absolutely stunning how good looking this film was. And like, when you see this movie in theaters, they're not hitting those deep blacks because of the projector. Like, those blacks look like almost gray, and if they do look gray, they're like not even, then sometimes it's like a brighter gray than it really should be. Those levels are not adjusted correctly at all. So when you watch this on 4K Blu-ray, for me, it's a night and day difference between when I saw this in theaters to when I brought this at home. And a lot of that has to do with the high dynamic range, whether it be from Dolby Vision or from the HDR10. It was very, very impressive. But this is one of the 4K Blu-rays where I actually feel like the player made a bit of a difference. I also have the Sony 800 player, and look very similar to the Panasonic. I'm not going to sit here and lie. They look very similar to each other. It's just, I was very surprised. I don't know why the Xbox Series X handled this disc a little bit different than compared to the regular player. I usually never make note of that, but it was just very noticeable that it looked just a little bit flatter and didn't have as much highlight to it as I would have expected compared to the other players. So that was something that I just wanted to make note for you guys. If you're going to be buying this and you're going to be watching it on like just a regular Xbox Series X, I don't think you'll be getting actually the most out of this disc. The disc itself is very, very impressive as far as the visuals and audio go, and that really is the selling point for it, because like I said, not many extras on there, which was a big disappointment to me. The packaging, I like the packaging. I like the uniform packaging that they do. I'm not a huge fan, like I have it still sitting right here, of these barcodes on the side. I know what they're trying to do. They want to go for that uniform look, something similar to the Criterion Collection or Kino Lorber, but if I was going to, out of those three, I would say A24 works the least for me, just because of those barcodes, but everything else, like, this is actually one of the better looking releases in my opinion, and they're clearly there for the collectors, and I appreciate that. A24's commitment to physical media, I absolutely appreciate that, but for $35, might be a tough pill to swallow for people, including myself. I feel like this is much more of like a $28 to $30 disc, just because, hey, you only gave us the one 4K Blu-ray disc. I appreciate the great packaging, but not many extras. Yes, it's a fantastic disc, and that's what most people are going to care about. And if you're somebody who just cares about the disc, I definitely think that this is worth it for you. I just feel like it was a little bit too expensive for what we got, but hey, you're buying it directly from A24, very similar to Lionsgate Limited. They can set the price of whatever they want. We control the market though, and It's tough. I still think it's a really good 4K Blu-ray. I just wish we would have got some more extras there. Just a little bit more of the bells and whistles to justify that price. But overall, how would I rate Heretic on 4K Blu-ray from A24? I'm going to give this one a very solid 8 out of 10. And guys, it's also Tuesday, and that means it's time for our digital code giveaway. In every single video that we do on the channel here on Friday, I ask you guys 2 digital code giveaway questions. All you had to do was come back to this video right here. I put your name on a magic wheel. I spun that wheel 2 times. The 2 names you landed on, they have their choice. The digital codes that you've seen on your screen before you today. And guys, we had a little bit of an issue with Friday's video, the review of Inglourious Bastards. I accidentally posted the video on Wednesday publicly. Then I made it private until Friday. And because I did that, YouTube kind of buried the video and it was hard to find. I put a post out about it, but not everyone saw it, and I got a couple emails from people. So because of that, the magic wheel is going to be the same magic wheel from last week. Anyone who sent in like a new comment this week, there was no new names or anything like that. So I just copied last week's wheel and pasted it onto this week's wheel just because I didn't want anyone to miss out on it. I feel bad that people couldn't find the video. I'm not too sure why YouTube still wouldn't recommend the video, but you know, that's a minor issue either way. Or we're going to spin this magic wheel, and the 2 names it lands on, they will have their choice of the digital codes. I'm sorry about that if anyone had any issue finding the Inglourious Bastards video. Hopefully that never happens again, but, you know, so I do apologize about that, guys. But I'll stop rambling, and let's see who won this week's giveaway. All right, congratulations to James Tucker and Rico Gomez. James, you've never won before, but Rico, you know how this works. Reach out to me at my email address, letstalkentmt@gmail.com. Or you can always reach out to me on the artist formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. Either way, or to let me know which one of those digital codes you want. As long as the other winner doesn't take that digital code will be all yours. And if you guys didn't win this week, don't worry about it at all. We do it every single Friday, so make sure you guys come back to this Friday's video, which is going to be me and David's review of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Stay to the end of that video to see how to enter next week's digital code giveaway. And guys, that's going to do it here for us on another episode of Let's Talk. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to get out in those streets, tell your friends about us, and then we'll be seeing you around.